Okay, so good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Block, and I'm the Senior Development and Communications Manager at Brooklyn Legal Services Corporation A, or Brooklyn A. Just want to thank everyone for joining us. I know everyone has busy schedules and is doing a lot in their personal lives and communities and professional lives. But I think it's really wonderful for us to get together and share these resources, have a chance to ask questions, and we can support each other and our neighbors by being informed to know how to navigate these tricky situations, know our rights as homeowners and as neighbors. This event, Foreclosure Prevention Fundamentals, is one in a series of events that Brooklyn A hosts about all of our different program areas to let New Yorkers know about their rights and different resources that are available. Next slide, please. Next one. Thank you. So tonight, as you know, we'll be talking about our work with homeowners in foreclosure prevention, and we'll but in that work, we also do working against scams and deed theft. We work with in our low-income taxpayer clinic, we help to resolve issues with the IRS and New York State. And then our other program areas include preserving affordable housing, where we work with tenants to prevent eviction. We help to have affirmative cases to get repairs made, restoration of essential services like cooking gas and heat. We work on anti-harassment and fair housing claims. And then in our community and economic development work, we work with small businesses and nonprofits, providing free attorneys for commercial lease assistance. So that's to review new leases, lease renewals, lease terminations, and all of those services are offered free of charge. You can contact us Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Our email address is info@bka.org. I monitor that email inbox, so I'll make sure it gets to the right place. And our phone number is 718-487-2300. We'll put this information in the chat. Our intake staff speaks Spanish, and then we also can accommodate any languages. And yeah, we hope that you will let your neighbors know about our resources, because you never know who's going to need the help. Next slide, please. Thank you so much to Councilmember Natasha Williams for partnering with us on this event, and for your continued support of Brooklyn A, and all that you're doing for New Yorkers across the board. We're excited to partner with you in this event. I know we're going to do a couple more events for homeowners on different issues that are pressing in your community. So I welcome you and would love for you to share a few words.
I have too many tabs open on my computer.
I hear you.
Good evening, and thank you for partnering with my office. I really appreciate all the work that Brooklyn Legal Services Corporation A is doing. I don't often share lots of personal stories, but foreclosure is definitely something that's personal to me and something that I have experienced in my family. And I am honored to serve a wonderful community that is majority homeowners. And not a lot of people can say that in New York City, but in the 27th Council District, we can confidently say that we are a community of homeowners. I am happy to report that in this year's fiscal 2023 budget, we secured money to support housing affordability, $90 million to protect affordable home ownership by supporting many of the people that live in our district, which I say we are working class New Yorkers, primarily comprised of city workers, teachers, doctors, firefighters, police officers. And it's never a pleasant feeling when you are at the risk of losing your home, especially in this climate. No one wants to be without a home. So I'm thankful for, again, Brooklyn Legal Services Corporation A for providing this much needed information. And I hope you all find it useful. And I do look forward to continuing to work with you to address many concerns we have around home ownership and home ownership issues. And again, I hope you guys find this fruitful.
Thank you so much, Council Member. We appreciate your continued support. Want to publicly say thank you for your allocation to Brooklyn A in this year's budget. We will take that support and continue to help anyone that is in need in your district and otherwise, and do all that we can to preserve homeownership, because like you said, it's critical. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Charles Healy, who is a staff attorney in our Consumer and Economic Advocacy Program. Charlie is going to give us a ton of important information. Just a quick note, this workshop is being recorded. It's live on Facebook. If you want to share it out with anyone that you know, you can find it on our Facebook page. I'll put it in the link. Also, we'll be sending you a recording. So don't worry about having to write down everything that Charlie's saying. You'll get a recording of the event and you can see the slides. At the end of the presentation, there'll be a chance to ask questions, plenty of time for question and answers. And so, yeah, with that, I turn it over to Charlie.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. And I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. It's a real pleasure and honor for me to be speaking with you about this important subject. I also want to thank Councilmember Williams for sponsoring this event. So as Sarah said, my name is Charles Healy. I'm a staff attorney at Brooklyn Legal Services Corporation A. I work within the Consumer and Economic Advocacy program. We have within that program a low-income taxpayer clinic. Through that clinic, we assist taxpayers to resolve their IRS issues. This can include even representing them in U.S. tax court if necessary. And within the Consumer and Economic Advocacy program, we also have a foreclosure prevention unit. And that unit is designed to assist homeowners who are at risk of foreclosure. We assist our clients by helping them obtain loan modifications, and we also represent them in state and federal court, including bankruptcy court. So today, what I'm talking about is foreclosure prevention fundamentals. I'm going to talk about some of the really important aspects of foreclosure and a foreclosure case, so everybody can be aware of what these events are and how to best respond in that situation. So the first thing to cover is the question of what is foreclosure. Foreclosure is essentially when a bank files a lawsuit to sell a home because a home loan is not being paid. The goal of the lawsuit from the bank's perspective is to have that home sold at an auction in order to use the proceeds of the sale of that home to pay off the loan. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, so tonight, as we talk, there's going to be some terms that keep coming up, and I want to make sure to define what those terms are. So the plaintiff, that's a term that comes up a lot. A plaintiff is in a foreclosure lawsuit typically going to be a bank. And the plaintiff is the entity that starts the lawsuit, and they make a bunch of allegations against the defendant. A defendant in a foreclosure case, the most important one to know about is the homeowner. There can be multiple defendants, but the homeowner will be one of them. The defendant in the lawsuit is defending him or herself against the allegations made by the plaintiff. The summons is a legal document that the plaintiff uses to call the defendant into court, to call the homeowner into court. The complaint typically goes along with the summons. It's another legal document which the plaintiff uses to they basically spell out all of their allegations against the homeowner. That comes in the complaint. It's exactly what it says. Basically, the bank is making complaints against the homeowner. The answer, this is a really important item, is a document, a legal document, which the homeowner will use to respond to each and every allegation made by the bank in its complaint. A mortgage and note, those two words go together. A mortgage is basically an agreement between a bank and a homeowner where the bank gets an attachment to the home. And the reason they get that attachment is because in exchange for that, the homeowner is able to borrow money from the bank. That's the loan. And when the loan is paid off, the attachment will disappear and it's no longer there. So the terms of the loan that the homeowner takes out to buy the house, for instance, those are all spelled out in the note. The note is going to cover the particular aspects of the loan, such as the amount that the homeowner is borrowing, the interest rate, the dates on which the payments are to be made, and then the maturity date, which is the end of the loan, when that's going to occur. A modification, what that is when a homeowner and a lender come to agree formally about how missed payments are going to be made up. So if you're not paying right away in a lump sum, you might be able to get a modification, and the missed payments could potentially be paid over time or at the end of the loan in balloon payment, or basically a lump sum at the end of the loan. There are different modifications, so it will depend on your circumstances. So those are important terms. If we can go to the next slide. Okay, so a foreclosure case follows, there's a structure to a foreclosure case. There's a timeline that the case will follow. What this slide shows is some very important points along the timeline. And I'm going to mention the points now and touch on them now, and then I'm going to go into more detail about the significance of these events and what every homeowner needs to know if one of these events occurs, the action that the homeowner needs to take. So you might hear me say multiple times during this presentation that time is really of the essence, and that's one of the reasons why it's important to know where you might stand in a foreclosure case, because the sooner you act, the better you are the better position you're in and the better able you are to resolve your case. So the first thing is a 90-day notice. That's a notice that the lender sends out. I'm going to explain more about that. There's also the summons and complaint, which I mentioned, which start the lawsuit. There's more to know about that. The answer, that's the next stage. Settlement conferences. Following the settlement conferences, we have the pretrial stage and then potentially a trial. And following a trial, if the case continues, there would be potentially an auction for the sale of the home in order to resolve the debt. So I'm going to talk a little more about each of these and their significance. If we can go to the next slide. Okay, the 90-day notice, this is such an important event, and we really need to be aware if we have received one of these notices. This notice is required to be sent out by New York law, if the bank wants to eventually start a foreclosure case. If the lender sends this notice out, what it does is it starts a 90-day clock. When those 90 days end, the lender has the right to initiate a lawsuit, a foreclosure lawsuit. So this is really the first step that the bank will be taking if the homeowner has been in default, especially for a period of time, like multiple months. The lender is very likely to send out one of these 90-day notices to send a very clear signal that they intend to start a foreclosure case if the matter is not remedied and resolved quickly. The 90-day notice, it will have specific statutory language. There's a statute that says exactly what this notice needs to have included in it, the language it needs to have. I'm going to read to you some of what that language is. There's much more than what's shown on this slide. So it will say, as of blank, which is going to be filled in by a date. Your home loan is blank, which is going to be a number of days, and blank, which is going to be a number of dollars in default. So it'll say, as of such and such date, your home loan is so many days and so many dollars in default. It will continue to say, under New York state law, we are required to send you this notice to inform you that you are at risk of losing your home. So again, this notice is being sent out by the lender to the homeowner after a period of missed payments, and it starts a 90-day clock. This notice is required to be sent to the homeowner in the form or two ways, regular mail and certified mail. So by law, you are entitled to 2 copies. The lender has to send you both copies or send it to you both those ways. It will go in its own separate envelope. The law is clear that it needs to be sent that way in its own separate envelope by regular mail and certified mail. Included along with the statutory language is a list of housing counseling agencies in your area. If you have received one of these notices, as soon as you get it, it is very important that you contact one of those housing counseling agencies. They are there for you, to serve you, to assist you in resolving this entire situation. What the types of services they offer would include working with you to obtain a loan modification. So they could assist you with an application to the lender to modify your loan and resolve the delinquency. They can also refer you to trusted attorneys or legal services providers who would be able to assist you. There are many legal service providers in New York who are able to assist you free of charge. Our organization is one of those, Brooklyn Legal Services Corporation A. assists our clients free of charge. If we can go to the next slide. Okay, so after that 90-day clock has run and 90 days have passed since the summit, or I'm sorry, since the notice, the 90-day notice, by law, the bank is entitled to initiate a foreclosure lawsuit. The way they formally do that is by serving upon the homeowner a summons and complaint. So the summons, it's that piece of paper calling the homeowner to court. The complaint is the legal document which is listing out all of the bank's allegations against the homeowner. There are clear laws about how these documents are to be presented to you. It's called service. The presentation of these documents to you is called service. So there are clear rules about how that is to be done. Included with the summons and the complaint, there must be a document which is an additional notice. So we talked about the 90-day notice. This is an entirely different and separate notice that needs to be sent with the summons and complaint under law. It needs to be printed on colored paper that is a different color than the actual summons and complaint. And it needs to have, just like the 90-day notice, it has to have its own statutory language. So part of that language is what's shown on the slide. It must say you are in danger of losing your home. There's a lot more language that will go on an official notice, such as this. But this is just an example of part of what's going to be on there. The purpose of this is to make it abundantly clear to the homeowner that there is a lawsuit and that time is of the essence and action needs to be taken immediately. Okay, if we can go to the next slide. So speaking of taking action immediately, after the summons and complaint are served upon the homeowner should file what's called an answer. An answer is a list, an answer is basically a legal document where each and every allegation of the plaintiff, who is the bank, each and every allegation of the bank is addressed by the homeowner in the answer. What the answer does, there's a lot of benefits to filing the answer. It really puts the brakes on one of these cases. These cases can move a lot quicker if no answer is filed, but when a homeowner is able to successfully file an answer, they've done a lot for themselves by slowing down the pace of the case, and they're giving themselves a lot more opportunity to resolve the delinquency and to come to an agreeable solution with the bank. The answer also is the formal way of preserving your defenses in court. And it permits you to litigate the case if that becomes something that needs to be done down the line. These are all the benefits of an answer. If you file an answer, that in and of itself is an achievement. It will not end the case, but it is it's a very good thing to be able to file an answer. There is a timeline and I should say a time restriction, a deadline for when the answer needs to be filed. It depends, that deadline depends on how you were served the summons and complaint. So served, that's another legal term that we use. It basically means how the summons and complaint were delivered to you. If an independent service processor came to you and personally brought you summons and complaint, you technically have 20 days from that point to file your answer. If the summons and complaint were mailed to you, you technically have 30 days after that to file the answer. Those are not, let me go back. Yeah, so those are the strict deadlines. These deadlines can technically be extended. And I'm going to tell you how you can extend the deadline if you happen to miss those deadlines. The way you would extend the deadline is you can extend it by 30 days following your appearance in a settlement conference, which I'm going to talk more about settlement conferences in just a moment. But it's just important for me to say now that if you appear in a settlement conference and you have not yet, filed your answer, you now have 30 days to file your answer if you appear in your first settlement conference. So we can go to the next slide. Okay, what is a settlement conference? What this is, a mandatory court conference between the bank and its attorneys, basically the bank's attorneys, and the homeowner and the homeowner's attorneys, if the homeowner has retained counsel by that time. These are mandatory. I can't emphasize enough how critical it is to appear at a settlement conference. I'm going to talk a little bit more about how you'll know when one of these comes up, but for now, it's just important to know that they're so important to go to. What happens during these is the bank and the homeowner have negotiations that are mediated by the court in order to resolve the entire matter. The parties have to negotiate in good faith, which means they really have to be coming to the conference really willing to resolve the matter by most likely entering into a modification on the loan. The conferences, they may occur in person, physically in the courthouse, or in some jurisdictions, they're happening virtually. So for instance, in Queens, the conferences happen virtually, which you would appear through an application on your phone or on the computer. The first settlement conference is going to be scheduled within 60 days of the filing of what's called a request for judicial intervention. So basically what that means is either the bank, or if the homeowner wants to, can file this document, which is the request for judicial intervention, where you're asking the court to schedule the first settlement conference, and the court will schedule within 60 days of filing that. Okay, the next slide. So I should also mention that if the plaintiff, the bank, if they're the one who files that request for judicial intervention where they're asking the court to set up a settlement conference, the court's going to notify you by mail. You're going to be sent out a notification to let you know that a conference is happening. It's so important to be paying attention to what comes in through the mail. And I know it can be scary getting mail like, to get mail like that. It's just so critical to just be mindful of what's happening. Okay, I have a settlement conference. I've got to get there. I've got to be there. It's important. Loss mitigation. This is really what's going to be going down, what's happening at the settlement conferences. So like I was saying, both sides are meeting to talk in good faith about how to resolve the matter. What the court's going to do is set a timeline for everybody to basically complete a loss mitigation application. What this is an application where you are filling it out, or hopefully a housing counselor or an attorney is assisting you in filling out an application to modify the mortgage. And what the goal there is to get it so that all those past due payments that you weren't able to pay, hopefully you'll be able to pay those over time, or if nothing else, push them to the very end of the loan, at which point you would resolve them in another way. but a successful modification would bring your loan current and take you out of the default status. And that's how you can really resolve these foreclosure cases, is by doing that. So the application, when you're applying for that modification, what you're going to put on there is your identifying information. You're going to have a hardship letter or a place where you can describe what your economic hardship was, which caused you fall behind on your mortgage payments. And so that's where you put in writing the reasons for why you weren't able to make your payments. So that's really important to have. Also, there's a section that calls for your monthly income and expenses. So all the money that you have coming in each month. And you're going to also supply documentation with your application, because the bank who will receive the application, they want to see that you have sufficiently proved the income that you claim on the application. So the way you can prove your income would be through pay stubs, also bank statements, especially if you're getting rental income. It will show on your bank statements if you're depositing that. And then if you're a self-employed or a business owner, you could include a profit and loss statement to show what your monthly income is there. Okay, if we can go to the next slide. Okay, so we were just in settlement conferences. That's the last stage I was talking about, where you are working hopefully with an attorney or a housing counselor to fill out a loss mitigation application and hopefully get that modification so you can be current on your loan. If either the court sees that no modification is going to happen, or if the defendant, who is the homeowner, doesn't appear for one of the conferences, the court will, or they may release the case from settlement conferences and allow it to proceed to the next stage of a foreclosure case. What that would be the pre-trial stage and potentially the trial stage. The pre-trial stage, what that is where the parties, when I say parties, I'm talking about defendant and the plaintiff, are getting ready for a trial. They're doing what's called discovery, which they're basically exchanging documents that they feel are necessary in order to present at trial, or to determine the case. During this pre-trial stage, the bank and the homeowner have opportunities to file motions. What a motion is it's a formal request that the court decide something. And I'm going to talk about a little bit what you might be asking the court to decide. So from the bank's position, they might ask the court to grant them a default judgment or summary judgment. If the plaintiff, who's the bank, asks the court for a default judgment, their basis for that would be for instance, the homeowner never filed an answer or homeowner never appeared in the case. So if the bank is granted that motion, it's a very serious situation, because they have really, they've come very close to essentially winning the case. The summary judgment motion that the plaintiff might file would be where they're saying to the court, okay, there's nothing further for us to really litigate here, as it's clear that the homeowner is in default and hasn't appeared, etc. Therefore, the bank should win. That's essentially what the bank would be saying in that type of a motion. You can oppose these motions if you're appearing in your case. That's why it's so important to appear. As a defendant homeowner, you also have the chance to make motions too. You can move for dismissal. That would be if the in a situation where the bank has failed to comply with the rules that the law says it needs to follow, concerning, for instance, those notices I was talking about. There's very specific rules that the bank has to follow, and if they don't follow those rules, you can have the case dismissed potentially. Also, you might be in a position where you can file what's called a bad faith motion. This is a very powerful motion if it's applicable, where you're essentially saying the bank has not been working with me in good faith. They haven't been willing to work with me to get a modification. I've been trying to do that, but the bank isn't letting me do it, and they're not working fairly with me here. If you succeed on that motion, you could potentially have all of your arrears erased. That is a tremendous outcome on a motion like that. It's not guaranteed, of course, but it is a potential outcome. Okay, so after this motion and basically pre-trial stage, if the case is not resolved at that point, it could go to trial, an actual trial. What that would be where both sides, the bank and the homeowner, would have an opportunity to argue their case before the court. If the homeowner wins at trial, then the case would be dismissed and that would be over. If the bank wins at trial, they could secure what's called a judgment of foreclosure and sale, which is going to be I'm going to talk about next. If we could go to the next slide. Okay, the judgment of foreclosure and sale is an order that comes down from the court, and it basically says, okay, the home in question is going to be sold at an auction. And the purpose of that auction, as we know, is in order to use the proceeds of the sale to pay the loan. And the judgment will basically say, okay, this home is going to be sold at auction, and it's going to give a specific date on which that auction is to occur. This is toward the very end of the lawsuit. After this happens, the last thing left really is the auction. This isn't exactly what it sounds like, an auction that occurs on a date that's set by the court. And the purpose of the auction is to sell the home, and the proceeds from that sale are used to pay the loan that is owed by the homeowner. If you find yourself or if a homeowner finds themselves where a judgment of foreclosure and sale has come down from the court and been entered, there is hope. They can still potentially save their home. There is a last resort, which would be filing bankruptcy. Because bankruptcy is governed by federal law, there are rules that basically say that the state law case, which is this foreclosure case, it must be what the word is, stayed, which is basically paused, and it will pause the auction. Basically the foreclosure case will freeze, and the bankruptcy matter will commence and begin and go forward. So that's an entirely different subject. It's a subject for another discussion, but the reason for bringing it up now is just to let you know that if you are beyond the point where a judgment of foreclosure and sale has been entered by the court, there is still potentially this option for you, the option of bankruptcy. So if we can go to the next slide. So again, I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. the reason for tonight's discussion, the main goal is to talk about these foreclosure cases and the important stages along the case, the important points along the timeline of the foreclosure case. It is so important to take action immediately if you find yourself on any point along this timeline. What we really strongly recommend is to seek assistance through a housing counselor. We would really want you to work with an attorney as well, especially if the foreclosure case has started with a summons and complaint. Your housing counselor is going to be able to refer you to legal services organizations such as Brooklyn Legal Services Corporation A. And you really want to be careful also, I want to point out, about which attorneys you decide to work with. Just be vigilant, because there are some bad actors out there, not only attorneys, but other people who really are trying to scam homeowners and try to trick them in a way out of their home. We really want you to just be careful about the folks that you're working with and who you contact. Always contact your council member if you have any questions. The housing counselors listed on the 90-day notices are going to be great places to turn to. They can refer you to legal services organizations that have been vetted by them, that over time have proven again and again that they can obtain the best possible outcome for homeowners. And you can always contact Brooklyn Legal Services Corporation A, and we would be glad to speak with you as well if you want to contact us directly. So our information is going to be out provided during this presentation.
Thank you, Charlie. That was really helpful information. We will put the contact information in the chat. It's also up on the screen. info@bka.org, 718-487-2300, and we'll be sharing that out. Okay, let's move into question and answers. Will, if you can take down the slideshow, please. So to ask questions, you can either write your question into the chat or into the question and answer section. You can also raise your hand by going down to the participants tab and selecting that little hand symbol, and we can unmute you. So I'm seeing a question, a hand raised from Adama Johnson. So I will allow you to speak. Hi, Adama, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. How are you? Good evening.
A little nervous. I'm going through that process myself right now. But I had a question. After the court submits the final judgment about the foreclosure sale for auction, could the defendant go file an order to show cause through the I think it's what is the Second Department Appellate Court in Queens?
Okay, so that's actually a really good question. That gets into some technical stuff. So what we can do, we can look into that question with you further. If you want to send us an email, you can do that. You can do that tonight, or give us a call tomorrow, or whenever you have an opportunity, and we would be glad to look into your case further and contact you as soon as possible about your options.
Yeah, because we never was properly served. They lied on the after the summons and complaint was submitted to the court, but no one ever came to this home and served, and especially during the pandemic when everything was shut down in New York. So we were home, working from home. So yeah, my situation is a little complicated, but I won't carry on. I will send an email and call tomorrow to discuss further.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Okay, Sarah, it looks like you're speaking.
Oh, sorry. Okay, next we'll hear from Van Walker.
Yeah, hello, Sarah. Hello, Charlie.
Hi, good
Yes.
evening.
Charlie, my question is to address you. You're a foreclosure lawyer?
Yes.
Okay. All right. For instance, there's a lot of people being foreclosed in my neighborhood. I live in Bedford-Stuyvesant community. People that's been there for eons of years. Thank you. I want to thank you for giving us one remedy about the banks acting in bad faith, act like they're trying to give you a loss mitigation, and a lot of times they don't give it to you. So you already answered that question. You could put in a loss mitigation motion. I mean, a good faith motion, right? That's what you said. Something about putting in a bad
Yes.
faith motion. A bad faith motion. If they're playing
Yeah,
games with you.
you got the term right. Yes, exactly. So I'm not able to basically give like a legal advice on this for your particular situation. If you did feel like you wanted to submit one of those, what I would recommend doing is you can definitely contact us because we may be able to assist you with drafting and submitting that motion. It's always beneficial to have an attorney when you're dealing with a lawsuit. If you wanted to contact us, we would be glad to speak with you about your circumstances and potentially help you out with filing that motion if it were applicable in your situation.
Well, yes. All right. That's not in my situation, but I've seen a lot of my neighbors, people in the area going through that. My
Okay.
thing is that I'm trying to help people. I've been in a neighborhood for 30 years, bought a house in 2004, and I was in a foreclosure for like 5 years. But I'm not going to go all into that. The judge let them transfer the deed. They transferred the deed, but they couldn't do nothing after they transferred the deed to investor, the bank. They transferred the deed for like $1.5 million. The idea was, I think the judge, they acted in their motion, they asked the judge to be able to sell the house because I had signed a slip saying that if I didn't sell it a certain amount of days, that they would be able to sell it. Judge, I was in default of that motion. Judge granted them the deed. Before I could put in a motion, the judge died of coronavirus. Oh, sorry to hear about that. Long story, my resources ran out during the pandemic. They got a judgment of foreclosure. They got a date. They did an auction with nobody there. So the judge said the next judge came one that wasn't familiar with the case, let them foreclose. They got a foreclosure date, May 5th. They foreclosed. They didn't even have nobody there. The auction, I didn't get a chance to like even purchase the house back. And now there's another deed. I mean, there's another deed with another amount on it. So basically, they transferred the deed to themselves. Then they foreclosed on themselves. The first price on the deed with the Department of Finance says that the house went from me to them for 1.35. Now they did another foreclosure and the price was 1.8. And they did it on the wrong house number. They put it on 495 Halsey instead of 494. Now I know there's a lot of politicians out there that's saying deed fraud. If this ain't clear deed fraud, then what is it? What kind of safeguards was put in for the Department of Finance to circumvent these things? I mean, we had a big thing on deed fraud. I'm quite sure you're familiar with it. What a lot of politicians were saying, a lot of deed fraud was happening. I don't understand how the Department of Finances is letting these deeds be submitted 3 or 4 times with different prices, because not only does that hurt the person that's in foreclosure, you don't get a chance to redeem your house. They have a fake auction, but it also fluctuates the comps. So it's like you committing fraud on the whole community. So that's my address to you. How would I address that with the Department of Finance? Bring that motion back into the court what is the remedy for this one?
Okay.
That you think of.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I can't, without really the facts, and basically the best thing to do if you really want to do something on that, what I would recommend is giving us a call and or send us an email, and we will definitely we can look at the index number on your case and get a better handle on what's going on, and we could speak with you about what kind of options that you might potentially have in your circumstance. With it being so fact and so many nuances to your case, it's definitely best to talk about that one-on-one after during a scheduled intake interview with us outside of the presentation. But so you're definitely welcome to give us a call or send us an email, and we'd be delighted to talk with you as soon as possible about it.
Okay. All right. I just got one more question. It's only gonna be a minute. Is there
Okay.
anything that you know of set up in the Department of Finance to like detect these frauds for that Department of Finance and say, no, this deed was transferred already for this amount of money. You can't transfer it again for this amount of money. Is there any safeguards put in with the Department of Finance to stop the deed fraud? Like I said, we had a lot of this going on.
Yeah, so I'm not personally aware of anything right now. What I do know is kind of a general principle on those on documents filed with the recorder is that they don't really inspect them for authenticity or for I should say they don't inspect them for that's not part of the role of them, or that's not part of their role, is to look into whether that kind of thing is happening. They simply they're making sure that it's been properly filed with them. So if there is an issue, it would need to be taken up separately. I would definitely have to look at it, or one of our attorneys would have to look at it to see what, if anything, could be done on that.
Sounds good, man. Thank you. Thank both of you.
No
Thanks
problem.
both of you. All right.
Yes.
Thank you. And thanks for looking out for your neighbors. It sounds like you're,
Yes.
certainly invested in preserving your neighborhood, and we appreciate that as well. So feel free to spread the word. We also have some homeowner manuals that were recently put out and created by the city, as well as with input from our organization and other housing organizations that have like just tips on a whole lot of different issues that we can you can come pick them up in our office in Bed-Stuy. We have an office on Fulton, and you can come pick some up and you can distribute them to neighbors.
Oh, definitely do that. And I'll definitely be emailing you guys too. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay. Next we will hear from Brenda Ray.
Hi, good evening. How you doing? Do I have it on mute still? Hi,
No, we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Brenda Ray, R-A-Y. I have the same situation. I just had a dismissal of bankruptcy yesterday, and I have a settlement coming up, I think in November. So I need to do something really quick.
Okay, so give us a call tomorrow if you'd like to do that. You can do that. I'll give you our number now. 718-487-2355. I'm sorry, that's my direct office. The general line is 718-487-2300. Please call that number, the one ending in 00, and we will set you up with a time to talk with an attorney and to discuss with you your situation. You can also email us at info@bka.org.
Thanks, Charlie. We may have lost Brenda, but we'll make sure that they get the information.
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay. So if I have a question, do I have to leave my house if I get sued?
Okay, so as some of the homeowners have shown here, with their own personal experiences, if you are sued in a foreclosure case, while you do not need to leave your home immediately, once that case starts, you are in serious danger of losing your home. It's so important to take action, and talk with a housing counselor or an attorney. But just because a case has started, you don't necessarily need to exit the premises and leave right away. That would really only come after there's a court order saying that that needs to happen. Please talk with a housing counselor or an attorney if you're in foreclosure.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we're coming up on the hour. I thank you so much, Charlie, for all the information. Oh, it looks like Brenda is back. Okay, Brenda, Charlie had advised that you reach out to us tomorrow. You can give us a call and
At the 718 number?
yes.
Okay, and where you located at on Fulton?
We're on Fulton, I think it's
1471.
between, yeah, 1471. I think it's between
Kingston,
Kingston
yeah.
and Brooklyn, right?
Kingston and Brooklyn. Okay.
Kingston and Nostrand Avenue. Those two
Kingston and
stops.
Nostrand.
Between
Okay.
Oh,
those
the
two.
stop, yes, but between Kingston
Oh, I'm
Street.
sorry,
I
I'm
think
sorry.
it's, yeah, I think the streets are between Kingston and Brooklyn.
Okay, what time should I call tomorrow?
You can call anytime 9
yeah.
to 5, right?
Yes.
'Cause I don't get off work until 4, so I'll have to call you on my lunch break. I've been here
Okay.
23 years, Charlie. This was my mother's home. She died in 2003. I paid a lawyer $10,000 and I felt that he's not helping me at all.
Okay.
I get so emotional.
Yes.
I
Yes, I
had tenants,
understand.
but they moved out due to COVID. They couldn't pay the rent. I did have a loan modification of $42.66. I was paying a bankruptcy fee and I couldn't afford to pay everything.
Hmm.
So even if I could just try to get a loan modification, that would work for me instead of paying a bankruptcy fee plus the bills.
Yes, I understand. So you can call us tomorrow during lunch break, and then what will probably happen is we'll set up a time that's good to talk with you. It doesn't necessarily need to be during work hours. Sometimes we can talk with applicants outside of like a 9 to 5 if that's what they require.
Thank you, Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
We wish you the best, Brenda.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Charlie, for all the good information, for answering questions. Thank you to Councilmember Williams for sponsoring the event. Thanks, Will, for helping with running tech. And thank you all for being with us. We're going to run another couple of workshops in the next few months for homeowners on a couple of different topics. So look out for those. Also, any other, oh, I'm seeing one other hand raised. Is it okay to take it, Charlie?
Yes, no problem.
All right, Kyle.
Yes, I just wanted to ask, what will be those other topics, and is there like anything that's more proactive as opposed to reactive that you guys are doing?
Yes. So a couple other upcoming topics will be around around like property taxes, scams, scam prevention and awareness, deed theft. That work is really important in terms of prevention. We also in the past have run some events on kind of preparing for disasters and other like emergencies for homeowners, like financially, as well as, you know, some other things. I know that like there's more and more just kind of issues happening with like flooding that's impacting homeowners as well as other issues. And so, you know, we're open to hearing about what's going on in the community. And if there's, you know, if it's not within our expertise and we can partner with another organization, another, you know, community-based organization or government agency to create a workshop, we can do that. We also partnered in the past with banks in terms of like lending options. So yeah, let us know if there's topics that would be useful for you all.
That would definitely be of interest to me. I'm a life insurance agent with New York Life, and I think that one like the situation that just was just mentioned by Brenda definitely is something where like if we have proactive solutions could be staved off as opposed to you know, getting to the point of where you guys are at. And I would love to partner with you guys to, you know, educate the community and move forward with you guys to help because I definitely was lucky not to have experienced that because exactly what my father prepared and planned for. And it's something that I want to share with the whole entire community because, you know, I see it happening. I'm from Flatbush and I see it happening day in and day out. And it's something where if we're proactive as opposed to reactive, a lot more can be done than obvious, and that's with any situation, obviously. So I'd definitely be willing, and I'd love to partner with you guys.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, feel free to email us. You can use that info at bka.org. Again, I monitor that inbox, so I can respond to it. And we're open to partnerships. We're starting a new outreach partnership with a community-based organization in Flatbush right now. So yeah, let's talk about how we can collaborate.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. We'll keep you updated on future events. And everyone take care.